So, hello everyone. This is the next session of project management's introductory part. We are in the first unit of project management's course, and yesterday I had introduced you to the in the first session I had introduced you to the introductory part of project management, and today I will be discussing the second part of the introductory phase of project management, wherein I will be taking up the project planning part, and we will quickly begin with the project planning without wasting any more time. As I told you yesterday, that every project that is supposed to be uh, you know taken up by a team or any project manager, the foremost part is to well plan the project. Unless the project is well planned, you know the correct and the adequate implementation of the project does not take place. So, for any project to correctly move ahead and reach its completion stage, it's far more important for the uh, project to be very well planned. So, adequate planning leads to the correct completion of any project undertaken by a project team. So let's discuss ahead as to what we should expect from project planning. When we talk about project planning, if, as I said, that it has to be very adequately done. If inadequate planning is done, it leads to the frustration of the entire team, and at the end you face poor performance by the team, and of course criticism for the team is faced in case of whenever the project does not reach its success level, or maybe is not fulfilling its targets. So that is why adequate planning is one of the foremost tasks in project management. Now, I want to introduce you to a very important terminology in project planning, and in future topics that we will be taking up in project management, which is work breakdown structure. So, the work breakdown structure is basically the foundation of effective project planning, including the costing of the project and the management of the project. So, what is this work breakdown structure? What is this WBS that is supposed to be understood by all of you? It is the most important aspect when you are trying to set up a project. It is actually the foundation on which everything else builds up. So, if we try to define work breakdown structure, you can call it as a hierarchical form from Uh, yeah. So I was saying that what is a breakdown structure? A work breakdown structure is a hierarchical form, uh, right from the general till a specific level. You can also consider it like a hierarchical tree, or the hierarchical tree of or a tree structure that we design of deliverables of the tasks that are needed to be performed till the of the entire project. Let's say if you have multiple several different departments working at different levels, and you have to draw a tree diagram as to which task will start at what time, how they will be conducted, what will be the key activities under each and every task, and which teams will be involved in carrying out those tasks. So that is how the work is broken down into several different parts, into several different steps, and each and every teams, each and every worker, or the employer or the team member of that team knows his particular task or job in that work breakdown structure, right? So that is what is a work breakdown structure. So if I just have to give an example, this is how your hierarchical tree would look like. If it is not visible to you properly, then I can increase the size a bit so that it becomes more understandable for you. Like the first column shows the research and development team. The second one shows the engineering, design and manufacturing team. Then there is some other EP2 shutdown team, the project management team. Then there is an recycling team. Multiple teams are working in one project, and then their work are broken down into several segments under each and every team's segment or the line of work. So that is how your work breakdown structure exactly looks like. So when you are doing project planning and you are trying to create your own WBS, the lowest level of your work breakdown structure is the work package, WP. So work package can be clearly defined, allowing the package to be costed, scheduled, and resourced. So your WP contains a list of tasks to be performed that form the basis for the schedule. WP allows assignment of responsibilities like work package manager, WPM. So, the responsibilities are assigned to the work package manager. So, as I said, that this WP actually includes the, all the different tasks that are to be performed under a particular work package. What are the costs which will be inculcated under that work package? What are the time durations on which different activities will be conducted? How they are going to be scheduled? How they are going to be resourced? Whatever resources are required to perform that particular task, that is also important to be mentioned in that work package, right? So each and every little task that is done, who will be working in it, what is going to be the time duration for which that work will be performed, and how the resources will be supplied to that work package. Everything has to be mentioned in that WBS. I hope that I'm making it very clear to you what is the meaning of WBS. Now, you know, this WBS actually allows the hierarchical buildup of costs and schedules, which means that how much of costing is going to occur at which step of WBS and at what time that particular activity is going to be conducted. WBS actually facilitates very strong management of all the activities that are going to be conducted in one project, right? During the execution of the project. You can also, with the help of this WBS, you can also have a strict control on the costs that are being incurred, on the schedule of the project that is being carried out. If any activity is taking more time than pre-decided, then immediately a check can be exercised as to what is making the project people take more time than the pre-decided time schedule, and they can be any kind of malignancies over there or any kind of malfunctioning over there can be corrected. So that is why this WBS is very important as far as your cost control and schedule controls are concerned. WBS can be used for many other things like document management, risk management, etc. And at every level, of course, the teams are working, and that work package is there. So they keep on documenting everything every day. So daily record of the work that is being done or the tasks that have been performed are kept, right? So since the daily record of the work that is done are kept every day, the documentation is created, and that documentation can be used further or maybe later on at the end of the project completion, to create the project report of the entire project. So that documentation will help the project manager to create the project report also at the end. And of course, risk management can also be done very easily, because the work is broken down into several smaller pieces, and if any kind of contingencies are going to arise, they can be pre-analyzed, and a proactive effort can be taken to nullify the effect of that risk, even before the risk actually arises. So to manage those risks that are going to arise in future, WBS becomes very supportive. So let's talk about scheduling here in project planning, because scheduling is one of the most important and integral parts of work planning, or I can say project planning. Schedules are basically the task durations, which means whatever tasks are going to be carried out, at what time that task is going to start, and at what time that particular task is going to end. Those deadlines are set. So you can have, of course, these schedules can have a wide variations. There is no unique answer, you know rather there are statistical variations depending upon the assumptions, because initially when the projects are planned on paper, of course there are experts who are planning the project. The project manager himself is an expert, and on the basis of their previous experiences they decide the schedules. But when they are practically implemented, there are chances of variations in those projects, and that is why there is a need to understand the basis of scheduling. And you can actually divide the work into 4 5 categories, or maybe three main categories, like the most challenging work, most or which is going to take maximum time, most likely timing, and absolute certainty that this task I'm absolutely sure at what point of time or how much time it will require, right? So you can divide the tasks in different categories, and according to that also you can schedule. Mostly people choose to be very optimistic when they are planning their projects. By being optimistic, what I want to say is that they believe that nothing wrong is going to occur, and everything is going to be absolutely smooth, and the project is going to run the way it is actually expected to, and the deadlines will also be met accordingly. But this is actually very naive of them to think like that, and rather the projects which are planned, they should be planned in a very meticulous manner, and people should understand that any kind of problematic situations or any kind of risks can arise at any point of time, that might curb down the schedules and change alter the schedules, and rather elongate the deadlines also. So that kind of flexible approach should be there, and you should keep a proper time duration, and whatever deadlines you are committing, they should be committed after a well thought of plan under your work breakdown structures. Right. So this diagram actually depicts how common schedule development is done, wherein on the y-axis the probabilities are set, and on the x-axis the time scale is developed, and the accuracy of time scale estimates are made on these time scales to understand whether the project has been implemented in the correct timely order or not. If there are any alterations in them, you can make those alterations in your work breakdown structure, so that there are no laggings or fallouts in your project. So let's talk about some key points in this WBS based project planning. The first and the foremost thing that is supposed to be done is to recognize that adequate project planning is very essential, right? And that is why you need to produce a very sound and systematic work breakdown structure. To develop such type of sound work breakdown structure, you should use a framework which is provided by your project management plan PMP, which actually gives you the outline of the entire project as to how the project is supposed to be conducted, when is the sponsor of the project expecting us to complete the task by what time, and how you have to manage your activities so that all the uh, you know tasks that have to be conducted under that project slowly move in a proper order, following the proper hierarchy, so that timely completion of the task or timely completion of the project takes place. It should also hire the right person at the right place in the project. You should actually know your human resource very well, who is good at what, and you should correctly employ the people at the right position. Your human resource should also be very well acquainted with the teamwork and team spirits they should have, because if they do not know how to work in a team, and they are not carrying their team spirits, good team spirits, and what happens is that everyone tries to work only for the achievement of personal goals, and somewhere the entire project's task and goals get forgotten by the team, and everyone starts struggling for the completion of their own personal goals, and that is where the ultimate objective of the project gets lost. And these are there are multiple examples of such cases where the teams actually forgot the ultimate mission of the project, and because of that the project had to face major failures, right? So that is why you have to involve the right people in your project. Apart from that, you have to give them enough time to complete their task. After a lot of pondering with the team, the project lead should decide as to which task would require how much time. It shouldn't be like, oh, if I am giving an assignment to you people, it should not happen that I'm not even considering that how much time you will a normal person would require to complete the assignment, and I give you very short deadline, and because of which the assignment that you people do is not having good quality, because obviously due to the lack of time and other resources, the quality of the work always gets compromised. In the haste of completing the project earlier, the team will definitely compromise with quality. So that is why you have to allow enough of time to complete each of the tasks. And of course, being systematic is another very important aspect of project planning. Your project plan has to be very systematic so that each and every team knows, each and every person employed in the team knows that which task is supposed to be started at what time, and which activity will start after the completion of which activity, right? So there should be a proper synchronization in the network diagrams of the activities which are being designed for the project. You all know what are network diagrams. You must have studied them properly in your production and operation. The next topic that we will be taking up in the planning part is the project risk management. I have already told you that every project has lots of different types of risks, which could be defined as an uncertain event or any kind of uncertain condition that arises, and if it occurs, it might have a positive or a negative effect on the project's objectives, right? So sometimes it may happen that we started the project, and we had estimated the cost of the project maybe this much, and the cost of the raw material reduced, and rather we ended up into being more successful because the costing that arose, or the project reduced because of the reduction in the raw material cost. But then it can happen vice versa also, right? And sometimes, there are multiple other types of risks. Say suddenly some kind of change in the political scenario occurred at the place where the project was getting conducted, or maybe some kind of economic turmoil came and suddenly there was a recession, or maybe inflation, or some problem occurred. So there could be, or maybe your competitor made a different type of move. Sometimes it happens that some project is getting conducted and an environmental friendly agency comes and brings a stay on your project, and the project gets a halt for a very long duration of time, because of which it does not get completed in time. So there could be multiple types of risks that are involved. But uh, well-planned project always is proactive and is visionary about these types of risks that may arise, and they always take very proactive steps in curbing down these risks as much as possible. So you can call project risk as a combination of the probability of the defined threat or opportunity, which is of course a likelihood, and the magnitude of the consequences of occurrence, or maybe the impact of the occurrence of these risks actually defines the index of risk, right? So you can measure the magnitude of your risk also by understanding as to what is the index of that risk. So any kind of correctly planned project would also has its own properly defined, likelihoods of risk also, and correctly measured impacts of risk also through the risk indices. And when you have proper risk indices defined, you can always have, well understood risk plans, that okay, if these kind of risks are going to arise, then these are my plans to actually meet and curb down these risks. So every good project manager has these risks in mind, and he also has the plans ready, or like we always say, that what is your plan B if the things do not function like this. So a good project manager always has this plan B ready to actually curb down the risk. Apart from any such contingency which is not very easy to curb down, or a person never has control over, that is a different case, of course. But still, though, for those things on which an organization can have a control over, those risks should be correctly well planned and well managed. So if we have to actually try to measure the impact of risk, we have to understand that every type of risk impact moves through a proper process flow. Like there is a threat which occurs, need to understand the scope of that threat, and that scope of that threat could lead to a particular type of maybe poor product quality, or maybe poorly managed project, or something like that. Similarly, if there is a threat to the schedule, there could be a chance that the project's completion is late, the deadline is not met. Similarly, if there is a threat of increased cost of raw materials or other resources that are required in the project, then there is a chance of overspend, which means that the expenditure that is going to occur in that project will increase. So these are the different types of risks. Maybe threat to the scope of the project, which leads to poor quality of the product, threat to the schedules of the project, which would lead to late deliveries of the project or late deliveries of the products. Similarly, threat of increasing of cost due to inflation or any other kind of economically, economical condition that arises, that could lead to over expenditure in the project and increase in the budgets of the project. So in addition to this, there are some other types of risk also, like health risk to the employees. Sometimes the employees face major types of health risks in case of oil mining projects or some kind of coal mining projects or some other projects which are very heavy duty projects. So safety hazards are also there. Sometimes some environmental threats are there. As I've just told you, that if the project is having any kind of hazards to the environment, you have to first take the permission of the government or the environmental ministry to conduct that project. Otherwise, an environmental agency can bring in a stay on you. Similarly, there are threats of natural calamities which are totally out of the control of any human effort. Say, suddenly there is any kind of storm or earthquake or some major other natural calamity that occurs. In that case, project really faces a lot of problems. So, there could be multiple such threats for which a project manager has to be prepared, at least for those which can be controlled by human efforts. And they should be obviously very well managed also. And even if those which cannot be controlled, at least you should have a contingent plan that if any kind of natural calamity occurs, how am I going to protect my human resource? How am I going to preserve the raw material or the other resources, the machineries that have been set up for the project? There should be a plan for everything. Like if a rainstorm is going to occur, and how am I going to save all the cement bags that have been stored at my project site? So these plans have to be made even before the starting of the project. That is why risk management plays a very important role in any kind of project planning that is done. I hope that I'm making it absolutely clear to all of you as to what is risk impact and what is the importance of risk management in project planning. So, of course, the risk management also is a process, and the steps under risk management are mentioned here in front of you on the screen. The first and foremost is, of course, to identify the risks. What kind of risk is there and what kind of risk can arise in future, be it economic, political, geographical, any kind of natural calamity, any kind of deficit of funds, any kind of court claims, legal barriers, or anything like that. Once these risks are identified, the next step in the risk management process is to assess the likelihood or the impact of that risk on the project. That what impact that risk is going to create on your project. What will be the impact of the risk? Then, out of the risks that you presume that are going to arise, I'm extremely sorry, it's too windy today here. So, out of all the risks that you presume that are going to arise, you have to rank all the risks up in the ranking orders, say from the risk with the highest impact till the lowest impact risk, from rank number 1 till rank number 10 maybe. and you have to prioritize as to how we are going to deal with the risk on the basis of the rankings. Are we going to start from rank 1 or are we going to start from rank the lowest rank? Then of course you also have to define your risk management approach and the actions that you are going to take under that risk management process. By defining the risk management approach, what I mean is that you need to clarify as to how you're going to tackle or handle those risks that are going to arise. What approach you are going to keep, right? And what are the actions that you have already thought of that you are going to take when you are going to manage the risk. Then, of course, comes the second last step, which is the implementation of these actions to curb down the risks that are arising in front of you or which your project and project team are facing. Once these actions are implemented, it is not enough to just implement the actions to curb down the risk, but you also have to monitor those actions so that you can understand, whether the actions have been correctly implemented or not. And you also have to review those actions. You have to find out whether the actions that were taken have been correctly implemented or not, whether the actions that have been taken were successful or not. They, of course, you can only judge the success of your implemented actions by measuring the index of the risk, whether it was reduced or not. If the risk is found to be reduced or the impact of the risk has been found to be curbed, only then will you consider your actions as successful or not. So, I hope that you have clearly understood what is the risk management process in project planning and project implementation. So, let's just discuss in brief the key points in risk management. Uh, the first and the foremost point is to make the management of the risk integral to the way the project is managed. You have to ensure that the cost and time contingencies are consistent with the identified risks. Because unless the cost and time contingencies are consistent with the identified risk, the impact of your planned actions will not actually come over. It will not be able to curb down the risk in the manner that is expected. The focus on the significant few, like the most important few risks, is highly important. You cannot try to keep managing too many risks at a time, but you have to identify very few risks that you can actually identify and manage. So don't go ahead and hunt for each and every risk to manage them. So I was saying that one has to be, very vigilant when he is trying to manage the risks. He has to understand, that what are the few most important significant risks that I have to manage and I have to curb down. You should not always try to, hunt for all the risks and try to curb them down. Rather, you should be absolutely, you know, clear about that these are the risks which can be managed very effectively, and these are the ones which are having maximum impact on my project. And once I curb these down, only then can I call my risk management absolutely successful. You also have to be extremely vigilant and proactive about the risk management that you are doing. Unless you are vigilant about the risk, you cannot conduct risk management properly. And you have to, as I have been saying that this again and again, that proactiveness is, of course, one of the major key aspects of conduction of risk management effectively. So, with this, we have come to the end of the second session of project management. I really hope that the session was thoroughly informative for you, must have left you very well informed. And for any doubts, any queries, I'm really open, and you can leave your comments and queries in the message boxes, and I will be really happy to, you know, reply to them, and I rest assured that I will definitely answer to them. Meanwhile, this is Dr. Swati Mishra from International School of Business Management at Suresh Ganviar University, Jaipur, signing off. Thank you so much for attending this session.